And hello everybody. Welcome to Flight Past. And this is the history podcast streaming, call it what you will, channel where we fly aircraft such as this beautiful Huey here around the planet, looking at historical events from the air and seeing if we can get an insight into those events from the topography and the distance and things like that. So hopefully you've been following along and you're aware of what we do on this channel. I'll just jump in the Huey now and get stable, and then we're going to fly along the yeah, I completely forgot how to turn on that. Let's do that again. Okay, we're here now. Let's turn that off and then we'll reset it. Okay, so yeah, we're here in the Huey. That's one crash so far for the stream. If you remember, if you have been following along, and I'm big thank you to those who have subscribed. It's a new channel, so we're just sort of finding our feet at the moment. Last week we talked about this beach here, and this beach is Omaha Beach, and we've done quite an extensive talk around this particular part of D-Day. We're going to be heading down the coast now to Gold Beach, and I thought what I'd do is I'd start here because we'll get a sense of the distance between the two beaches. So one of the objectives of the east flank of Omaha, which was down here at Fox Red, was to move east, and then the 47th Commando Royal Marines, they would be landing at Item sector on Gold Beach, which is the furthest west, and their objective was to take Arromanches pretty quickly, move on to the port on Bassin, and then link up with the Americans and link the beaches in that way. So we're just coming over now. This is the American Cemetery at Omaha. So this is we're now coming up on the Colville draw. If you remember that discussion, we've got WN60 on our left, just on the left side down here, and so this is the furthest easterly point of Omaha, and then we'll fly along these cliffs. And of course, you can see there's no chance of them landing anywhere along this coast. The cliffs are too steep. But we will be coming up on Long-sur-Mer, which is the gun battery that we started off last time talking about. So whilst we're doing that, I'll just explain to anybody, please like, subscribe if you like the content. What happens on this channel is that there is no there's no editing going on this. It's me flying live, chatting, using my notes and books and things like that to lead a discussion about these events. Right on the nose here now is Port en Bassin, which is just a little sort of fishing village. Really wasn't big enough for them to use in any serious way. And so it's just live. It's me chatting, and I like to think of it like I lead a discussion rather than lecture or teach. I'm not saying that I'm a pilot. I'm not saying I'm a historian. I'm an amateur. But I just hope that people could join in, ask some questions, and we can get a discussion going on it. But I'm just interested in what it looks like from the air, and the sort of scale of things, so you can get a bit of a deeper understanding of what's going on, and what these people fighting and the leaders were considering when they were conducting or planning these operations. Just below us here, passing over now, that where the white dot is, that's the Long-sur-Mer battery, which we'll talk about in due course. And what you can see up ahead, then, this bay here, which we can see where the white dot is, and starting to curl around. This is the gold sector. The next bay along in the distance there is Juno. So what I thought we'd do today is we'll just get familiar, like we did with Omaha. We'll fly up and down, and we'll just try to get a little bit familiar with the territory that we're talking about. So for those who don't know, Gold Beach was the British sector, and basically the British had taken control from this point to the Orne estuary, and it's got a British had gold and sword, and the Canadians were part of the British Army, 30 Corps, and they were at landing at Juno. So the beginning of gold starts here, and is split into sectors, beginning with item, jig, king, and some people could argue there was also love at the far end. So we got basically item is this section here, jig is this section to the sort of where it curls there, and then you got king coming down this point here. The Gold Beach was the responsibility of the 50th Infantry Division of the British Army. It was also known as the Northumbrian. And so for our Americans in the audience, the British Army tends to name their units. They do number them, but they're named after the counties of England and Wales. They were supported by the 79th Armoured Division, and these guys had DD tanks. They had Royal Engineer armoured vehicles, called AVREs. They had flail tanks, so they had these tanks that had chains on them that would explode any minefields, and other elements that were basically known as Churchill's funnies. And these were used a lot more on the British side of things. The DD tanks were used on the American side, but the funnies, the ones which were had specific roles on the day, were primarily used by the British, and overall the British coordination between their infantry and the armour worked a lot better than the Americans did on the day. So let's try and find the edge here of the section. This is all saturated ground here, and it's flooded even now, but it was more so by the Germans. They were opening lock gates, flooding the areas behind the beaches. And what we're looking for here is the edge of King, and it's kind of signified by this this village here. And we basically now at the edge of King, the King Red section. And there is some love here, between here, and then we can see down there the beginning of Juno. So we're at, this is the edge of King Red, and then from here to basically where you see the first beginnings of the curvature of the beach is where King Green is. Significant Vistanderness along this route are what's known as the La Riviere strong point, which is around here somewhere. We'll see if we can locate that. And a very key one was one which was called Le Hamel. I did a recon yesterday on Twitch, and it was I think I was looking at the wrong area, but I'll show you where it is actually. And so from this point here we now get into Jig, and we're into the Jig Red sector, and then from around about this point here we then go into Jig Green. And La Hamel is actually this this place here, and this is one of the key Vistanderness just there as we're flying over now, just going below us, and that one was causing a lot of trouble. And then this is item, and we got item red and item green at this end. One of the key features of this side of the beach is the shallow water. There is a number of shallow, rocky shelves off the beach, and so that makes it difficult for them to approach at this end. Okay, let's continue to just fly around and so this end of the Normandy invasion beaches, the H hour was set around about 7:25. It's almost 50 minutes later than down at Omaha and Utah, or even more, an hour later on Utah. And this reflects the fact that they wanted to land at low tide. It was more like a turning tide, so they would come in, and this it was because they were aware that Rommel believed that any invasion would happen at high tide because it was less distance to cross to cover, and all of the obstacles were basically placed on the high water line. This then allowed the waves of troops to. The plan was to get onto the beach, move off the beach, because the bombardment would have taken care of most of the defensive positions, and allow the engineers to come along and see the obstacles and blow them up. So the subsequent waves that will be coming in over the course of the next 6 hours, up to high tide, the obstacles would be removed. Okay, we're getting down here to we're getting down to Juno here, so let's just turn around here. So let's talk some of the sectors then. Let me just change this scroll here. I like to have the scroll at the bottom so that you guys can tell me if I've missed most of they're basically my notes, and I just want to see if I've missed anything. So let's go to item sector. So item sector is the furthest west, and it was assigned to the Royal Marines, the number 47 Commando, who were attached to the 50th Division for the landing. They landed a little bit later than the main landings, mainly because I think of these shelves I was talking about out at sea. They had to make sure that they could get across them. And they were really not technically used as an initial assault force. The Royal Marines were more like we might have briefly talked about when over at the British airborne sector at the Orme. They would get off the beach quickly and push on to other objectives. So they came in here. This is item below us. They were coming in around about 9:30 by some accounts, but sort of reasonably later than the main force, and they were basically to push this way, immediately heading towards Arromanches and attacking Arromanches from behind. And we can see down below us here was a couple of Vichtan nests that protected the rear of Arromanches, which is below us to our right. And so that was one of the early objectives of 47 Commando, and then they were then to push down this road towards Port-en-Besson, and they mainly achieve this. They don't quite get to Port-en-Besson. They actually come behind it, but their main D-Day objectives are secured. Okay, let's go left and come back again. I think what I'll do here is I'll just do a quick break. It's just and I will see you in the next one when we're going to be talking about jig. So welcome back. We're currently flying back towards Gold Beach. I just talked about the sector item. Let's change the scroll, and we can talk now about a little bit about jig. Okay, so jig's sector. It's let's see if I can just actually I might just pause here and we can jump out. So this sector here is item, and then what we're looking at now is we're going to look at jig, and jig basically starts from where we are right now and moves along. This is jig green, and then get down to where you can see this slipway, and then this then becomes jig red. So jig red, thing to note here, there's two different types of sector here. There's one where you're coming off the beach into some built up area, and you've got a standard nest on the right hand side that has got a containing wall that stops some destroyers and stuff having a direct hit at that bunker, and that bunker's got a shot right down this this beach here. So this this building right here is really important. The shot that it's got, you can see it's going to be taking out anything that's going to be coming off the sea. It's not there to hit the ships coming in, it's to hit them and when they're on the beach itself. This is and so this is jig green, and then this is where they come off the thing. This is where it's mined. There's possibility of mines. They don't know for sure, but it's definitely mined. And then this end is when quite a lot of the Dorsets and the Hampshires eventually come in. This, by the way, that Le Hamel is WN 37, and then up this end is WN 36. But as you can see, that now with this part of the beach, which is jig red, it's different. It's less defended because there is this land behind it is it's called Le Marais. It's basically flooded, it's saturated, and you're not going to get armored vehicles over this ground. But it does mean you can get a lot of your troops off in this area. And with the way the tide is coming in, quite a lot of these LCAs are pushed from right to left, and they land they get pushed across onto jig red, which means that what happens then is that they then have to come down this road, basically, and back into this village, which is called Asnel-sur-Mer. And all the time, then they're getting, they're facing resistance from the WN 36 and 37. Okay. So the main assault brigade here is the 231st Infantry Brigade, and they are coming in between 7:25 and 7:30 is the first waves. And the 1st Battalion is the Hampshire Regiment, the 1st Dorsets, and 2nd Battalion of the Devonshire Regiment. And they've got supporting armour coming in. Sherwood Rangers Yeomanry, Westminster Dragoons, and elements of the 6th Assault Regiment of the Royal Engineers. And they're all bringing in these bunnies, crabs, crocodiles, you name it. And so they, the story of this sector is basically the resistance around the WN 37, the Le Hamel area down here. That initial resistance is pretty much overcome quickly, and then they push inland up this road. Let's do the next sector. I'll come back and I will talk about the initial waves and what happens and the objectives, and then we'll finish off. But we're just going to get a little bit of a sense of what's going on and where things are. So we can now move to the King section. King section begins basically from around about here. You've now got this section below us is King Green, and then we move into King Red. These are, and this is King Red coming up here, and then from this point there's another section which is called Love, but I don't think it was used much, or it wasn't significant. This village below us is Vaux-sur-Mer, and the main assault brigade here is the 69th Infantry Brigade. These were coming in between 7:25 and 7:37. This is the 6th Battalion, which is known as the Green Howards, the 7th Battalion of the Green Howards, the 5th Battalion of the East Yorkshire Regiment, and they had the 4th and 7th Royal Dragoon Guards using D.D. Shermans. And again, parts of the 6th Assault Regiment of the Royal Engineers, and they were with their AVREs. So right, let's just pause here, jump out. So this section here is King Green, and you can see where this road comes to the beach. Just to in this section here is what was known as La Rivière strong point. This is had an 88mm gun, a little bit similar to the setup that we saw at Le Hamel, and this is again facing down the beach. And this particular point was actually knocked out very quickly. A DD tank arrives and takes it out relatively quickly, unlike Le Hamel, which took a little bit longer. So that was the initial waves coming in, and then the rest of the waves are from the 151st Infantry Brigade and the 50th Division's Reserve, and they landed as and where they could basically could exploit positions. So let's this is, I'm just going to scroll like this along the thing. So we got the La Rivière point just there, and you can see the importance again, the flooded land, the routes off the roads or these causeways, so they become focus points to get these armed vehicles off the beaches, because not only do they have these 88mm looking down the beach, the Germans have battery positions that have key sectors zeroed in with artillery. So they really, whilst these the worst place to be if you were a tank or an infantryman, once you've got off your landing craft, is to remain on the beach. You got to get inland. Because otherwise these positions will already be zeroed in over years. They would have been having practice to get these things zeroed in, and so you want to get off that quickly. Right, let's bring up the map and show you where we are. So the main objective basically of the British in terms of Gold Beach was to push quickly inland, and they almost sort of split in a fork. One the right fork going towards Bayeux and the other one going to Cruilly, and they're trying to get to this road which is called the N13, and it's if you've got Caen here and Bayeux around about here, they want to cut off this road as soon as possible. That will then deny the Germans the ability to quickly move forces east and west and to wherever they can exploit or reinforce any positions. So let's see if we can follow that path for a bit, so you get a decent sense of what was going on. What we could do, let's do the first wave first, get that over and done with, and then we'll look at what happens after that. That's probably a better idea. But the objectives basically of the day is to get as far forward as Bayeux and Cruelly, and as far east and west as Juno and Port on Basson, and meet up with Omaha. So they want to link up this whole coast, and that was their first day's objective. Let's change the scroll. Yeah, let's talk about the German defenders to begin with. What are they actually facing at this point? It's most of these strong points along this part is given to the 716th Division, which is also known as a static division. They lacked mobility. They didn't have any transport, basically. They were considered low quality frontline troops, often Ostbattalion, made up of Russians and Czechs and things like that, with German NCOs and officers. This whole sector, when I talk sector, I mean from Gold to Sword, is actually defended by around about 8 infantry battalions. So let's say 8,000 men. So to cover this whole coastline from here to the Orne estuary. But there were elements of the 352nd Division which was thought to be a more capable formation, and they were around the Le Hamel, which is the place where you get the most stickiness of resistance. So Rommel's theory was basically, let's defeat them on the beach, but to be honest, I don't think he really believed that. The infantry was there to slow up any invasion as much as possible, so he can then bring in his better quality troops and panzer divisions to the front line. And we know the difficulties the German command and control had because of the way it was an absolute mess in who can control what at what time and do what at what time, and basically it was Hitler who had the most of the control over the actual tanks themselves. And there was a fundamental disagreement in the chain of command, and also the way that the chain of command sort of blurred their lines of control. That some elements, like Rundstedt, wanted to have the panzers in reserve and then bring them forward where they wanted them, and Rommel was much more aggressive and thinking more like let's defeat them actually using the tanks on the beach. The problem with Rommel's point was there was no air cover at this time, and you're also putting your armoured divisions in range of naval bombardment. German fortified positions, and so we talk a lot about these WN positions there, Bestand, the nest, and there's also these things called Stützpunkt. My German's probably terrible. They're a series of pillboxes, trenches, to brook pits, and they can range from containing mortars, machine guns, anti-tank guns. The beaches obviously have these. They're mined. They have anti-tank. They're sort of metal cross things that I can't remember what they're called now. It skips my mind. And these sort of wooden ramps with mines on the top which would push the landing craft up and then explode on them. There's around about 27 of these kind of strong points in this coastline, and we're going from around about WM 35, 34, 35, 36 when we get to this. This is 36 below us, and then just off the nose now, where the white dot is 37, and then we come around. Sorry, it was the other way around, 37, 36, and then we come around the corner, 35, 34. There's also inland from the beach, where the ground is no longer saturated. The Germans put in trench positions, or anti-tank trenches. I think you might see some like below us here to the left, and you can still see the scars of some. And there was we can go back to Asnel, and we can see the there's definitely one that was inland. And it basically stopped the tanks from coming off and going across the fields, and it channels them down towards the strong point on the road. So let's have a look at the actual first wave then, and we can look at the typical sequence of an assault wave. So in terms of actual events, what we're talking about here is at about midnight to 1 o'clock. The whole part of this coastline is bombarded by Allied bombers, and they're pounding coastal areas, giving the Germans basically a bad night. And Force G is a naval task force. G stands for gold, and that is has congregated in an area called Piccadilly Circus, which is to the it's an area about 5 miles off the Isle of Wight, and it's an area for the fleets to congregate, and they move then south to around about I would say is the horizon sort of level 23 kilometers out, and that's where they would start to anchor up. And they arrive at that position at around about 2 o'clock, between 2 and 3 o'clock, and then they begin to disembark the troops. At around about 4 o'clock, we start the bombardment. The bombardment is mainly concentrated on the batteries at Lons-sur-Mer, and the other batteries we talked about down at Omaha. And then around about 50 minutes before the landing craft are due to arrive, they will then change their targets to the actual targets on the beach itself. The landing craft are placed into the water around about 7 miles outside offshore. So it was at 5 the naval bombardment of these positions begin. You can sometimes still see evidence of that bombardment. I think we might be struggling here. The internet seems to be dropping. And this bombardment was done by HMS Orion, HMS Ajax, Argonaut, Emerald, and the Dutch gunboat Flores, and they're joined with 13 destroyers which could, with a shallower draft, could get closer and pinpoint certain positions. This is when the Lons-sur-Mer battery opens fire. That's that battery we flew over at the beginning of the last episode. And the fire is returned by HMS Ajax and Argonaut. 5:58 we get to sunrise. And 3 of the 4 guns at the Lons-sur-Mer battery are then disabled at this point. The 4th gun manages to continue to fire sporadically over the day. It's and then at 6:15 these landing craft begin to move in on their final journey into the beach. And it's believed that there's frogmen have arrived at the beach, and they're trying to mark some of the obstacles, such as the shallow areas, especially around Iton area. But remember, the waves are choppy. It's 4-foot high waves, and the currents they're pushing them from right to left. So I think what I'll do is I'll leave that there for now. I shall go and grab a quick glass of water, and then when we come back we'll do the run-in itself. And welcome back. You find us over Gold Beach on D-Day, and we were just discussing the initial run-in for Gold Beach here. Let's talk about the way these things worked. I don't think we've covered this much. So these landing craft are moving in. The first thing what we have is on each side of the run-in, on the edges, are these landing craft supports. They're medium things. They're kind of designed to guide the people in, navigate in, give support. They've got they contain forward observation officers for artillery, and they are usually on the edges of the sector, moving in. And the idea was that these DD tanks would be pushed into the water quite a long way out, and then they would move in slowly in front of the landing craft, and so they would be getting to the beach just before the infantry arrive. Now, what happens here is that the sea's too rough, and the very wise decision is made to just run these LCTs, they're called, right into the beach, and almost either drop the tanks closer in where the waves weren't so choppy, or if it was still choppy, they were just going to push them all the way until they actually touched the sand. So there would be this line then of tanks that arrived. And if you remember when we talked about Omaha, 27 of the 29 tanks that was supposed to be going in ahead of the infantry didn't make it because they just went off the end of the ramp and sank. Whereas the British here said, maybe they just improvised better on the day, I think. Behind these tanks on the edges of the sector of the line would be these things called LCGIs. Sorry, LCGLs. And these are landing craft that are large, and they actually have guns on them. So these forward observation officers are then calling in targets to these guns on the side. And in the middle, then, in a big line coming in, you'd have these LCTs with concrete busters, all this sort of thing, all these Sherman, Churchill funnies coming in on these things. And they're always designation high explosive stuff, AVREs. There's concrete busters, whatever you want. And then behind then come the infantry, and these are in these LCAs. And the A stands for assault. These are the Higgins boats. And then behind the wave of assault boats then come these LCTRs, which stands for Landing Craft Tank Rocket, and they can then be firing these rockets over the heads of the troops as they're going in. And they would also include things like LCT Flak, which was basically to protect the assault craft from enemy aircraft. And then behind them, then you would get things like control motor vessels. These would be the guys who would be directing the troops in, the waves in, maybe changing the plan on the fly, getting feedback from the returning landing craft assault boats, and then being able to tell the next wave where to go and what to do. So that's the kind of the sequence of events that you get on this approach. So we're getting to around about 7 o'clock, 7:20. The naval bombardment has been going on, hitting these targets. They then stop at 7:20 to allow the LCAs to go in. This is then repeated with the rocket firing on the landing craft. And at 7:25 then we're talking the first wave of the 50th Infantry Division. They land at King Beach, which is below us here. And the first Hampshires and the Dorsets would land at the Jig Centre sector. So these casements, the one here, La Rivière, caused a lot of damage. They're hitting some of these landing craft as they come in. And at about 7:30 then this the La Rivière gun emplacement, which has an 88mm gun on it, is neutralized by a DD tank, British tank. But the Royal Marine Commandos also get struck at this time. Landing over on the eastern side of the cliff. Right, let's move on to the next section. So we're going to be talking from about 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock. So from around about 8 o'clock, the Royal Marine Centaur tanks arrive, and some delayed DDs, and the infantry begin pushing inland. Let's just lose some height here. And from about 8:15 to N25, then we get an infantry assault by a company of the 2nd Devons attacking the strong point at La Hamel. So they land, and I think, by the way, this is a great book. It's James Holland's Brothers in Arms, and he talks on this specifically about the Sherwood Rangers, but it's got some fantastic images, aerial photography of this section, so I definitely recommend that. The second Devons, they basically land at this in this sort of section here, and then they push down this road into Asnel, and one company tries to attack La Hamel, which is this place here. This is the same time that the 7th, and then the rest of the Devons will push from, well, they get across this tank ditch now. The tank ditch. It's kind of this sort of, I think it might be where this road is here, this modern road here. But you see how at this section here it's all underwater. And what the Germans wanted to do is create an anti-tank ditch that forces or funnels any armour coming off the beach down towards the strong points in this area. I think actually this might be it here. This line that we see. It could be along here. Anyway, any elements of the second Devons. A lot of this is once they're off the beach, is that idea is like, you just push on, and so the second Devons will push on, and they head to the down this road here to Asnel, and then they move from this position this way, and their mission. There's a village up here called Rys, R-Y-E-S. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Which is this village up here. Just speed this up a bit. Yeah, it's just into this place here. And there are some fantastic aerial shots that James has got in his book. Showing armoured vehicles moving along these roads off Gold Beach. So I highly recommend that book. 35, 36. So this is, we're talking between... this is 36 is this position down here, and 35 up at where we were talking about here. And the Germans are reporting that they're seeing 30 tanks coming ashore on this this sector here. And this is around about 9:30. this is at the same time that the 352nd German artillery, I've said that 6 amphibious tanks have been destroyed by mortars, but they're also talking about that this position here and the position down here is damaged, and that's the when we were talking about this place got taken out by a DD tank pretty early on. At this point as well, just to give you a little bit of a view, this is when one of the very few appearances of the Luftwaffe occurs, and this is when a dozen Focke-Wulf 190s come along and they strafe the beach. At 10 o'clock, between 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock, most of the beach exits, and so we're looking at these, possibly these off ramps here. They've all been cleared by sappers by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and the subsequent waves are pouring ashore. But Le Hamel has still not been taken. And a lot of these units that are coming in, some of them are getting rerouted, so the 56th Infantry Brigade lands there, rerouted to avoid Le Hamel, so they're coming in further down. And they begin to do their move inland. So their job is to wasn't to do the first assault, it's to do the push inland and continue the attack. And by 12 o'clock, the British have consolidated the beachhead. And the minefields get cleared, and the commandos have come in, and they've taken, come around the back, and areas of Arromanches become under their control, which is here below us. And so 3 o'clock we then get to where a AVRE fires into the Le Hamel Sanatorium, which I believe is around here. It's a strong point covering this route in. And this leads to the precipitation of the fall of the actual strong point. It's then, this position is then captured at around about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. At the same time, Arromanches is secured as well. So it's taken all day, and there's basically one massive resistance pocket here. Royal Marines have done their job and got off to to Arromanches. The long Sumer battery is eventually completely silenced at around sort of 6 o'clock in the evening. So this is his position here. It's taken. The final gun is taken out by the French cruiser, the Georges Legoux. and on the eastern flank, we'll talk about a few of these individual battles, maybe like we did with Omaha later. But they basically secure this, get this secured, and they join up with the Canadian forces down this road. Around about 6 o'clock in the evening. This is the sort of time as well where the this area is Lourdes-sur-Mer, so the elements of the 21st Panzer Division have pushed in to this area, and they realise that they are between two beaches, and they decide that their best bet is to pull back. So there were this is the only occasion where actual tanks have eyes on the beach. German tanks have eyes on the beach. And eventually, just to finish off this east-west axis, the 47 Commando Royal Marines have pushed from Arromanches along the coast, and they get to the port en Basson, or the skirts of it, by the evening. All right. So what I do now, I just do a general overview flight. I'm gonna just do a quick flight now from here, this point here, which is La Hamel, and we're flying the route that they took. They basically did a fork from here, moving left and right, and we'll follow the route that they took on the day, pushing into Bayeux and Cruelly, and we'll finish this this episode here. I think my computer is getting a little bit laggy here. So they basically break the crust. Oh, come on, computer, just get there. They break the crust, and they push on into Bayeux, and they don't actually take Bayeux on the day, but they're effectively on the outskirts of it, and they're trying to cut this road, and we're just going to have a look at that. In terms of objectives, this is one of the most successful beaches. You could argue Utah was as well. In terms of their actual objectives set. This is Bayeux here. and I don't know what's going on with these. I think I'll have to leave this here because my computer looks like it's about to give up the ghost. But just to say that this is the beachhead that they secure is about 6 miles in and 6 miles across, and they're just trying to get control of the road between Bayeux and Caen, and Caen is basically along this road here, as you can see over there towards the distance. So I will have to leave that there. I think my computer has just decided to potato, and I will see you in the next episode. I might push on to Juno and do Sword as well, but we could go back and have a look at a few of the individual elements of this sector of gold itself. And as I say, we'll probably follow James Holland's Brothers in Arms. We'll look at the Sherwood Rangers. We'll look at their progress in. I'd like to actually use James's book and actually try and follow them through. It's basically the British version of Band of Brothers, where James follows one regiment, but I would like to get. I think if we get the context of Juno and Sword with this, we'll have a better understanding of what's going on, and then we can follow these individual paths of units later when we want to really pick up on what's going on. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you appreciate the live nature of these episodes. Please do like and subscribe. I see that we're on about 12 subscribers now. So if you do like it, or just want to support a small channel and see see some improvements to it, or maybe you've got some tips that you want to give, then just put in the comments below, and I will read them all, and I will use them. On that note, though, I will say goodbye, and I'll probably see you next week.